this fourth demo explores the end event more in depth. Just like previously, we have two files, one to create dummy files and then our main program. For this demo, we'll need a total of 4 gigabytes of space to work correctly. So over here, we have a program that will generate 512 megabyte files, but it's going to be 4 of them, so that'll be 2 gigabytes in size. And what we're going to do is we're going to take those 4 files and combine them into a single file that is 2 gigabytes in size. So to store everything, we'll need 4 gigabytes in total. Okay, so first let's run this program. So this is going to take a while as well, just like previously. If you look at this code a little bit in depth, you can see that this is actually the solution to your assignment 1, where you have to write multiple files and then signal when all the files have been written successfully. Okay, so that's taken care of. And so now we can look at the index file, okay, which is going to contain the core of our code. So again, we have the length over here. You can get the length by using fs.stats on a file, but I just hard coded it since it's the same for each of the files. And if you look at so we have a wrapper function called transfer files now, which is going to allow us to have multiple create read streams. Okay, so we have one output stream for our destination, but you can see that create read stream is called from inside of this transfer files function. Okay, let's see what else is interesting. So we have a source, and we can see that when the source itself gets a data event, all the code from the previous example is exactly the same. So nothing has changed. We take a chunk, we write it to our destination, and then we display sort of a percentage value. Okay, all of that sort of stays the same. Okay. The key difference here is now that we are calling this function multiple times, this function transferred files. So it's going to start with file 0, which represents the first file, our first input file, and we know that there's going to be 4 input files in total. Okay, so we're going to be sort of calling this function transfer files 4 times. And the first time is going to be on inputs of 0. So it's going to be the 0 file, then the first file, then the second file, and the third file, etc. And how we transition to the next file, we have to look for sort of a recursive call, which is over here. Okay, so you can see that we make this recursive call when a end event occurs. So an end event is signaling that this source file is out of data. Okay, so this stream of data is exhausted. Okay, and since we're only looking at the very first file, okay, so we can see that we have the index over here, which is passed in from transfer file, and our initial call is 0. This is only looking at the first file. Okay, so when that file is exhausted, the end event will be emitted, and so we'll print out finish sending for this input file. Okay, we'll increase the index, which means that we're going to be looking for the next file, and if we have not reached the end of our input files, we're going to recursively call to transfer the next file. Okay, so we can sort of see that we sort of make this recursive call, and because we have not called destination.end at any point, we've only used destination.write over here, then we can sort of interchange the source streams. Okay, so we can sort of replace where the input data is coming from while keeping the output the same. Okay, so we're sort of hot swapping a file that has been exhausted with one that still has data inside of it. Okay, so we'll continuously do this, calling transfer files recursively until all the files have been transmitted. At that point, when all the files have been transmitted, in fact, this program can work with way more than 4 dummy files. You can set in as many as you want. Then we're going to call destination.end to to terminate the output file to signal that this writable stream should be closed. Okay, so let's run this program again. We're gonna do node index.js, and so we can see that it's sending the first file, and then when it's finished sending the first file, it's going to move on to the second file, and when that one's finished, it'll move on to the third file. When everything is finished, it'll print out finished writing combined file, which we can look at, and we can see that this file is 2 GB in size, which is what we expected. So make sure that you clean up and get rid of all the dummy files. This is the last demo that needs a bunch of large files, but make sure you also clean it up for example 3.